right, so I'm going to apologize in advance because we are going to go fast, everyone. So if you've got questions, make sure that you jot them down because we're going to have time for questions. We want to make time for questions. But we're going to cover 4 big things in this presentation. The first is, why is marketing so confusing? Then we're going to help you choose a key marketing strategy, pick the right tactics for your strategy, and find the tools and choose the tools that are going to work best for that. So I like to call that 1, 2, 3 marketing, 1 strategy, 2 tactics, and then I say 3 tools to automate everything. So I would love to know if you have thrown money at one marketing idea after another. I'd love to know if that's you. I have done it. I don't know if you've done it. Put me in the chat. Say me. If you've thrown one money, time at marketing and gotten nothing for it. I always think that marketing sometimes is like a slot machine because there's this promise of new customers, right? There's a promise of new customers and we throw money and time at it and we get nothing. Well, I actually think that there are 3 big reasons that marketing is so confusing. Reason 1 is Google. Google doesn't help, right? If you type in marketing strategies, what you're going to see is 10 marketing strategies, 16, 10, 26. I've even written an article about 26 different marketing strategies. I can tell you when I see results like this, I get completely freaked out and overwhelmed. And I don't know if you feel the same way, but that's how it lands for me. Reason number 2 is what I call the 1,000 points of marketing or trial and error. You know, you read one of these articles, you see an idea, you're like, oh my God, this is going to fix everything. So what do? You throw money, you throw time, and then you get nothing. By step 4, you are doing it all over again, trying something else, throw some time and money at it, and once again, get nothing. By step 7, and I did include this step because I go through it regularly, I sit down and cry because it is like, what is wrong? And then what happens? You do it all over again. So that is really no help. Trial and error doesn't work. The third reason that you get really overwhelmed by marketing is because you're actually running your marketing out of a weakness instead of your strength. So you're constantly getting told video is hot, email gets 4,000% ROI. You're getting told all these things and you're trying all these things. So maybe you don't like video. I'm not a big fan of video and I try not to do it, right? It's not a strength for me, right? So if you are operating in your weakness, that is not going to work. The other thing I really want to cover is that the idea that marketing is a process, and it kind of reminds me of a long division problem. Like, can you do this long division problem in your head? I know that 1% of you probably can. The rest of us have to show our steps. We have to show our work. And marketing is exactly like that. There is a process, and I've outlined it here. There's research, there's developing an offer. I've inserted this superpower thing. I did not invent this process. This was actually developed by Philip Kotler. He didn't add in your superpower. In fact, a lot of marketers completely just, maybe they assume that you know this, because remember that journey that I just showed you, this constant trial and error, that happens because you're focusing only on promotion. You're focusing on your tactics, and then you're like trying to pick tools. And that just doesn't work. That's the thing that creates this endless cycle. What I advocate is using your marketing superpower. Everyone's got one, and I'd love for you to listen up and see if you can pick yours. The first marketing superpower is the power of persuasion. These are the people who, as I say, own the room. They're insanely charismatic and they are always on video. They're always presenting something. If you're a fan of Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, or Brendan Burchard, those are your persuaders, right? Their strengths are passion, motivation, they inspire people, right? Their weaknesses, they're always selling, right? It feels like a little bit of a push, right? The second group is what I call the power of empathy. These are your typical authors. If you're a fan of Seth Godin, if you follow Content Marketing World, Joe Pulizzi or Ann Handley, these are your typical content marketers. If you follow Steve Strauss from USA Today, these are journalists, they are authors, and they love to educate, right? And the third one is what I call the power of attraction. Now, these people tend to be a little bit on the invisible side, but you know how you know your power of attraction people? They are extremely technically capable. They know their business and they would love nothing more than to work with their customers. That's what they love to do. They want to work with their customers. So now we've talked about the superpowers, and now I'm going to tell you about those 3 marketing strategies that I mentioned in the very beginning. So like I said, I tabulated all these articles, and when I tabulated them, I discovered that really there were only 3 marketing strategies. The first one is direct marketing. That is a sales strategy, one-to-one, one-to-many. It is referrals. Most businesses use referrals. It's really a sales strategy, right? The second one is a content marketing strategy where you are educating and informing people. So at this point, I just want to stop for a second and let you know, think of it this way. Direct marketing, this is a push strategy. You have a solution, you want people to use it, and you are communicating that solution out. Whereas a content marketing strategy is you're putting content out there, it's more inbound. You're putting content, you're educating, you're informing, and people are coming to you. So that's the distinction between those two. Now, an advertising strategy is kind of neither of those. This is a pay-to-play strategy. You are paying to get placement. You're paying to get at the top of Google. You're paying to get in front of your customers. So those are those 3 strategies and how they work. So that was number 1. So now you've seen the superpowers, you've seen the strategy, and I'm hoping that you're getting pretty close on which one of those is close to you. Now I'm going to slap them together. I'm going to put them together. If you have the power of persuasion, right? You're into direct selling, referrals, maybe you're charismatic, you own the room, you're a speaker. Your direct marketing strategy should use things like webinars, speaking. Your emails should be offering something, invite them to something, give them something. There's always a call to action. You're also practicing social selling. You're kind of building those relationships and you are converting people. You are moving people from prospect to customer as quickly as possible. If you have the power of empathy, your goal is to focus on content marketing. Your blogging, podcasting, SEO, but I want to talk a little bit about this, your webinars and your seminars and whether you're doing email or blogging, all of that is more informational. Remember, it's inbound, you're informing people. And finally, if you have the power of attraction, you're doing an advertising strategy, because remember, you just want the leads to come to you. You don't want to mess around with either selling or marketing or content. So your focus is on PPC, pay-per-click, YouTube advertising, social media ads, contests, newspaper inserts, whatever it takes to get yourself in front of your customer. And we're getting to the point where I'm going to hand it off to Teo, but before I do, I want to make sure that I just say one thing as she starts getting into this tool conversation. If you have the power of persuasion and you're doing direct marketing, when you're choosing a tool, your purpose is really to sell. So as you're looking at new tools, you want to look for 2 big things. One is that it scales your talent. So you want to really go, instead of one-to-one selling, you want to go one-to-many. How can you do that? You can do that with live and automated webinars, right? You can use videos in your emails. And then your weakness, of course, is since you're like selling a little too much push, some of these tools, look for tools that allow you to nurture that audience and let them get to know you a little bit better and do that nurturing thing. If you have the power of empathy and you're doing content marketing, your goal is to educate. The tools that you use should help you drive traffic to your content and to your site. So you want to use social media campaign scheduling. It's all about getting your content out in front of the people. When you're building email lists and you're sending emails to people, you want to drive them to your content. So it's all about promoting your content and driving traffic back to your site. And of course, if you have the power of attraction, your purpose really is to serve your customers. So that means that the ads that you want to make sure that you have the right ads in front of the right audience, using the right channels. So you're going to be optimizing, using keyword tools, using audience analysis and competitive analysis, because you want to make sure that you choose the right channel with the right tool to get it in front of the right audience. And with that, I'm going to throw it to you, Teo.
Thank you, Ivana. Okay, so we said we're going to focus on solutions, software solutions. And actually, the first thing that I wanted to share with everyone here is that instead of focusing on solution, you need to focus on the problem. And here I'm talking about the business problem or the business challenge, right? Exactly the opposite of what we said. Well, the reason for this advice, take it as an advice, is really simple. You need to understand really the problem you're trying to solve very, very clearly in order to get the most of the tech you want to adopt. And so you'll hear many times like, I've used X software, you need to be using this as well. It's great, it does wonders. But really, it's always a match with the most pressing challenge that you need to solve. And so thank you. On the next slide, this is really like a 5-step process that I want to take you through to help you really choose the right tool. So you've seen, a gist of how to kind of like focus on the key marketing strategies, choose the right one for you based on your superpower. Then from there, choose the right tactics and then the right type of tools. But then once you get to that point, how do you go about the process? And so on the next slide, you may not always know exactly the type of software you need. And so sometimes it's very obvious. It's like, okay, I need email marketing. I need some form of keyword analysis. Sometimes it may be a bit more convoluted. And so however trivial this may sound, I'd recommend you start with a simple Google search. Just if you're not sure the type of software you need, just type in the problem you want to solve. If you want more reviews, if you want more customer testimonials, type that in software, and obviously Google will do wonders for you. You'll see a lot of vendor websites popping up. And what I recommend is really researching and reviewing some of the links. And so by taking time to really dig through the vendor websites, you will have access to the functionality each of those tools offer. And then you will get a sense for the type of software you need. Now, if you look at GetApp and any other similar marketplace sites, you'll see that all software is kind of like categorized and classified. And so once you know the type of software, then everything comes a bit easier. You will also may discover that the feature you need or are looking for is part of a larger suite. So you may be interested in lead generation or some sort of predictive analysis for leads, but then there is also marketing automation, and that is a much larger suite of features. And so just be very clear what you need for the moment and whether you'll need to scale, pretty soon. And so you'll need like all those additional features or not. And so now that you understand the type of software, the options out there, well, they can be overwhelming. Not only Google offer pages and pages of software, but you look at, other third-party websites and you'll see there are like hundreds of software just within what you thought is a niche category, right? You thought lead generation, this should be less so than maybe marketing automation. And so this can be quite overwhelming. And the great next step is really to narrow down your list. Take kind of like a first read of what's out there, and then start to really look into what other users are saying. Obviously, you will go to the vendor website. There will be a lot of great testimonials about happy customers, great use cases, super high ROI. But what you need really is the good, the bad, and the ugly. So you need to know exactly from other folks like you, of very similar company size, maybe of similar industry, what is it that works and what is it that doesn't work. If you look in general at reviews, it may seem, you may get opinions from folks working for large corporations. Budget may not be an issue for them. So for instance, any changes in pricing, they may not be as sensitive. And so GetApp offers this, but I'm sure like other third-party websites as well. When you check reviews, for instance, for lead generation tools, you'll be able to filter by company size, by industry, and some other criteria. And so you'll get is almost as if you're speaking to other folks, in your group, of how they really feel about the system. Is it easy to use? Does it perform as shown in demos? Are my questions answered? And so as you go through all that, kind of like keep a list. And what I'd recommend is that you shortlist, and don't shortlist more than 5 options or 5 tools. Why is that? Because yes, the next step, thank you, Ivana, is really scheduling software demos. This is a chance for you to ask specific questions, really understand first and foremost, as I said, that business problem, like, is this tool going to solve my business problem? So I recommend you focus the demo primarily on that. Obviously, if you have a small team, you can have kind of like the business challenge and the sort of tech, more like the technical conversation within that same call. If not, if you think there's like quite a lot to discuss, and there's like different team members who need to handle different kind of like the CEO or the founder versus the CTO, then you can schedule 2 separate calls. But first, obviously, you'll take a pulse and kind of like filter only the tools that are supporting your business challenge. Also, if you have specific tasks in mind, especially if you've done those, just ask the vendor to walk you through and show you there's a much simpler, more efficient way. If you have never done that, just come with those use cases and see how the tool will solve for those. And of course, it's also interesting to understand what's on their tech roadmap. A lot of vendors now, they take kind of like suggestions from end users in terms of the features they want to see added. And they're happy to share their roadmap to kind of like show you that they're active and continually improving the product. Okay, you've scheduled the demos, what you should be asking. I think one thing to note, that I'm sure like you've been in that situation before, is that software vendors will typically provide scripted demos, right? They'll take you through their most common functionality. And so if you come with specific actions, that will for sure bump them off their autopilot mode. And obviously it will make the conversation more useful for you, so you don't take anything off the bat. First of all, I recommend looking into integrations. Obviously now no tool works in a vacuum. It's all more powerful when everything is connected, and some integrations may be very common. You may find from vendors that, they work with Zapier, and you've heard of that, and you know that that's super simple and intuitive, or they may offer one-to-one integration. So if you're already using some tools, you can ask and understand if they provide that, or if they need to provide any custom integrations. In general, they may require an additional cost, so you want to make sure you know about that beforehand. If the system includes a mobile version, just review the interface on the smaller screen. Ask how much functionality is available on the go. That's super important. I think now we're used to kind of like, being on the go and wanting to kind of like have that freedom of doing work. And so that's super important. And sometimes your team may be used to performing certain tasks in a certain way. And so it's great to look into all those alternative ways of performing a specific function, which either you thought it was cumbersome, was taking time, or simply want to see how to integrate better with your processes. And of course, last but not least, custom code, super important. It's important to know if the vendor needs to customize anything for you, and if that is going to have another cost. And of course, any implications should you want to either upgrade or renew the contract. If you're specifically looking for free software, you may be interested in testing it out. You may be thinking, okay, long term, I don't have budget for this. For a year, I'll have to kind of like work with whatever is free out there. That's perfectly valid. I would still recommend that you compare top options the way you'd compare paid software. With a quick Google search, you'll find a lot of vendor websites. Most of them, if not all of them, will offer free versions. And you'll also find a lot of third-party blogs that kind of like rank or order the top kind of like free software. What I would recommend is whenever you look at yet another list of free software for startups, you kind of look if there is some objective criteria that they've used to rank that software, right? It's not just like a hodgepodge of tools put together, although you're like, yes, I've heard of them, I know them, but you want to make sure that they've looked at user ratings and reviews, that they've looked at features, so there's something like tangible behind that list. And as you know, there's a lot of free software, but as you know, nothing really is free. Your time isn't free, and so they also, like all these free versions of software, will be, some of them, quite limited. It may be based on number of users or based on number of projects. So it's important to look at what that limitation is and kind of like for how long can you hold off with that limitations. Other software will display ads, which are removed once you pay for the tool. But free software offers great functionality in general. And I think what's the most important is that ease of use is by far, I think, one of the aspects that most software end users value. And so it's very difficult to get a sense of ease of use by looking at screenshots or by spending an hour or two on a software demo. And so really by trying free software, you'll really get to understand, is this something that I would want to use for a longer period of time. And if at some point, or if now you're decided you want to go for the full version, or if you're considering, well, I want to try the software for free first, just to know if that's the right one for my business, I recommend discussing and understanding pricing from the beginning. There's like trade-offs in these different models. These are the most typical models that cloud-based software offer in general. And so based on what your startup offers, some may be more suitable than others. So just take some time to understand, and especially when you compare different tools, try to understand if the models differ and then what that will mean for your budget. Righty, we're almost getting towards the end. You've had all those demos, you understood, you discussed pricing. And so I think as you do your research, it's kind of easy to either find a software you like and pull the trigger because they have all the features, the demo went great, the support and their reps were really nice, and they offered all the information you needed. Or on the contrary, feel like very overwhelmed and see that actually no tool is perfect. Some offer all the features, but they lack the support, or you aren't convinced about the ease of use. And so it's really easy to get overwhelmed in the process. What I would recommend is that from the beginning, you start to kind of like keep tabs of your 5, or let's say top software options that you're looking at. And then you start scoring them based on these 5 criteria. And so instead of kind of like coming out of like 3 different software demos of 3 different tools and not remembering which one offered which, kind of like already jotting down and making sure that you are being diligent after kind of each demo, and you keep track of all of this information. And so last but not least, I'm not sure like if the slide itself is going to get shared, but if not, I'll drop the link in the chat. This is a template we have on our blog that you're free to make a copy of and just adapt, adjust, use, share, reshare. It basically gives you a model of how you may want to do research and compare the software. So basically listing all the must-have feature, nice to have, what's lacking, what's not, and it will help you kind of like come up with a score. And so, as you're going through all of that information and details, then it's going to be much easier to make sense of it all. Right, I know it's been quite a ride. We've promised to simplify the process, so I know it was a lot of information in 30 minutes, but hopefully you at least come now with the idea that there is a system, right, to kind of like decide on your strategy from there, decide on your tactics, connect that with whatever you're best at, and then from there kind of like have this methodical way of choosing the right tools as well. So I haven't paid attention at the Q&A, but we can get right to it.
We've got quite a few great questions, actually. Thanks so much for that. That was fantastic. A lot of information to take in. So we've got one first from Phil that says, I get a number of personalized automated emails. Example, hey, I know you're really busy, but do these actually work?
Well, it depends. They don't work on me. I get about 100 of them every single day. And typically, no, they don't work. Really, the thing to do when you're sending those, it depends on what the purpose of the email is. Sometimes you're sending an outreach email. Maybe you're asking, maybe you want to do a guest post, or maybe, I don't know, maybe you want something from that person. Really, the way to get something from that person is to connect with them before you send the email. Engage with them. Are they on Twitter? Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? Share whatever it is that they're doing. Say something that matters to them, right? Like, oh, wow, Teo, you're from GetApp. I'm so excited. My favorite thing on GetApp is that I can search on reviews and I can see what companies my size like and what they don't like. So that says to that person, like, hey, I really took the time to get to know you.
Great, thank you. We have another one from MD Wasim. As an early bird, what is the best marketing strategy to be used? Let's say for an e-commerce and IT solutions company.
Well, it's not about being an early bird, MD. It's really about you and how you are, right? So if you are the kind of person, if you have a technology company and you really need to onboard customers and take care of technical issues, and you need to spend time with your customers so they have this great experience, you might struggle with like balancing going off and doing content or doing videos, or maybe you don't like videos. I had some IT company clients and they just didn't like any component of this marketing creating stuff. If that's your situation, save your money, do some research, buy some ads. That's what I'm telling you, because you could waste $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 and you could have like bought some customers with that.
Definitely. Thank you. And another one from Rachel. If your superpower is a bit of all three, is there a test or quiz or something you can take to figure out what your true superpower is?
I'm going to start by saying everyone has all three, okay? Everyone has all three. The key is that when you're doing these marketing things, how do I say this? It's almost like if you're given the choice, look, if I told you you had to do videos 3 times a day, post on Instagram, post on Facebook, post on LinkedIn, do videos 3 times a day, does that get you excited? Or does that just make you feel like, oh my God, I don't even think I can do this, right? Whether it's writing, whether it's whatever, you have a master superpower. I do have a quiz and I've just kind of started it. So maybe like Teo, I can drop the quiz in there for you. If you guys want to see the quiz, I want to see the quiz in the chat and I will drop the link for you.
I definitely want to see the quiz. Please. Okay, one more from Selena. Do you recommend choosing only one strategy because as a startup we have limited resources, or because for any company it's always best practice to focus on only one strategy?
I would most definitely say choose one. Why do I say choose one, people? I will tell you. One strategy, 2 tactics. With each if you chose an email tactic, do you know how many emails you will have to write? I'm talking like dozens. You'll need an email for downloads. You'll need a newsletter. You'll need entire funnels of emails. You'll have emails coming out of your ears. No matter which tactic you choose, believe me when I tell you, there is a ton of work around it. And that's been the biggest frustration is I see people like doing everything, 1,000 points, like doing everything. Now you're just wasting money. Focus and optimize.
Thank you. And we have one from Nelly. Would you recommend purchasing an email list?
No, don't do it. Look at Teo. Teo's like, if you want to, hey, I'll say it like this. If you would like to whip out some money and light it on fire to start your campfire outside, go right ahead. Go right ahead. Your best bet is to build your own email list, right? You can build your own email list. I can go on and on. Depends on your superpower, right? If you're a promoter, even if you're not, whether you're a promoter or you're a content marketer, you can do these wonderful, like these online events. Look at what Startup Grind is doing. They've got experts doing interviews and we're all promoting for them. They're going to build a giant email list. You don't even have to be an expert. So you can build an email list. Yes, it will take work, but at least it's work where those emails are going to do good. And you don't need hundreds of thousands. A couple, you got 300, 500, 600 emails. Believe me, depending on what you're selling, you can make money.
And one thing I've seen a lot of folks doing, so especially if you're starting kind of like solo, I've seen a lot of folks like doing some great resourcing and then kind of like advertising on LinkedIn, like, providing a process or something or a template. It's kind of like all those things that, you're in your work deep and you don't have time. You're like, oh my God, I have to prepare like this strategy or like media plan for whole 2022. But I need like the right template. And then you start searching on the internet and kind of like nothing really like fits the bill. And so what I've seen a lot of folks kind of like doing these resources and then advertising them on LinkedIn, really putting them in an organic post and asking folks like, hey, if you want this, like leave me your, DM me or leave me your email and I'll email it to you. And so that's another way to kind of like connect and build an email list, but based on a value add. And I think, it's simple. It's obviously not original, but it's something that works because, we're people and we like it when other people kind of like offer free stuff, especially that's been, well put together and all that.
Great. Thank you. I think we're all on the same page, and Charlie's also put in the comments, do not buy unsolicited email. We've got a follow-up from Selena as well, which says, it sounds like direct marketing is the least scalable, but may get quick returns, while content marketing can scale, but takes a lot of effort to do right. Is that a fair assessment?
In short, yes. I say content marketing is like a farming activity, like you're working on a garden, right? You plant and you water and you visit and you talk to them and it's like, oh, whatever. Direct marketing is if you want the fastest path to cash, go direct, right? If you like hate sales like that much, then content marketing, you just gonna have to wait.
Thank you. And we've also got one from Alex. If anyone else has got a question, please post it in the Q&A. So Alex has asked, what's the best way to have genuine conversations with leads when everyone is faking authentic introductions, for example, LinkedIn messages and cold emails of people pushing their product?
I don't know, Teo, I don't know if you want to jump in here. All I can say is take the time to get to know people. People don't even believe me. In my email sequences that I just started like a few months ago, I actually put my calendar link in there and my phone number, and I tell people to call me. Has anyone called me? No. Right? So I have to make a concerted effort to get to know my audience. I cannot stress enough. Remember the first part of the marketing process? Research, talk to your audience, find out what they need.
I agree. I think like it's always about, right? It's always need-based, understanding like what they need. As folks who receive a lot of unsolicited kind of like connections, and sometimes you're like, it's not even like your name being misspelled, but it's about like, okay, this person hasn't looked at my profile, hasn't understood what I do. And so the connection is like completely off. And so you're like, just take the time. And I think as Ivana said, it's always much better to try and form like a more limited, let's say, set of connections, but like truly valuable than a huge one. And then off that, I think, you know, events and providing some other form or through like some sort of virtual networking, I think is another great way. So of course you're here on a startup grind, and that is a great platform for doing that.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got a few more coming in. So this one's from Buwan. So he said, or they say, hi, I am a tech entrepreneur and have built a human-like AI for self-care. I have been working to optimize apps optimization strategy to increase app downloads, but keywords in the semantics have their ranking on a roller coaster with highs and lows, and it is not clear why certain words are performing better and then they suddenly go down in the ranking. How can I figure out the reasons and figure out the right strategy to optimize ASO?
It's all about great tools, and it's combinations of tools. So if you've made a commitment to content marketing and to doing SEO and getting found, you're going to have to make sure that you've got the right tools. But again, remember that marketing process, understand your audience, understand what they're looking for. Remember what Teo said, what problem are they trying to solve? Those types of things, because then that will help you choose the right tools. Like for content, I use a couple tools, all do the same things. I use SEMrush because it's not as technical, but it's a great SEO content tool. Then I use something called Surfer SEO, that, you know, which helps you optimize your content and helps you improve your content so that you can rank. Then I use phrase.io, just like Surfer, just like a different platform, but it catches things that Surfer might not, and likewise. So if it's that important to you, then double down on those tools. I can tell you, since I've been focusing on content marketing, I have saved myself probably $200-300 a month, because I had all different kinds of tools. And I was like, why am I paying $99 a month for this crazy video thing? I'm not doing that many videos. See what I'm saying? But then I can invest, I can shift that focus into where it's going to do me the most good.
And if I can add one thing, like just looking at what the app is all about, self-care, I think this is very topical right now. And so I think one thing that sometimes is maybe not as is not seen as valuable but still work is PR and publicity. So especially if you're thinking about all like future work and wellness and folks just being more focused on self-care, I would really try and think, I'm not sure like what the market is, if you're global, if you're kind of like local, but I would try and look at the market that you're addressing, and try and understand, you know, how you can get publicity. Obviously I think locally is always much easier, but trying to understand, you know, like who your audience is locally, and kind of like what publishers, what, you know, media is looking after them, and trying to get known that way. Because I think like with app downloads, you will want to kind of like really kind of like invest in this type of PR and get a bit known initially, so that you can kind of like get those ratings and reviews and kind of like get some comments. And so I'd maybe be less focused. Yes, obviously the optimization is important, but then you want to kind of like spread the word.
Great, thank you both of you. The next question is, when do you know you need to hire rather than trying to do marketing in-house to maximize the return on investment?
Well, I'll tell you this. I have found that when I hired certain things out, I started making more money. So here is what I recommend. It's a very, very practical outcome for this. Make a list of the things that only you can do. Only you can do this thing. No one else. Like only I can be on here on this webinar with you guys today, right? But other people can come up with my Twitter chat questions, schedule the Twitter chat, run the social media promotions. Other people can do that kind of stuff. I don't have to be the one to do that. So my answer to that is outsource and get help. Get someone who can do it better than you, faster than you, and it's the one thing they love to do. Let them do it, okay? But you do the thing that only you can do. And I know that's odd coming from DIY marketers, but the DIY part comes from choosing your strategy, choosing what you're going to do so that you can tell people what you're looking for.
And also, I think tech will work as a multiplier, but only for so long, right? Because you still need to man the tech. Like even if you have like an email marketing software, you still need to write some of that copy, even if you have help, and kind of like create those nurtures and do all the background. And so kind of like, yeah, see how much you can multiply yourself. And then, as Ivana said, just get someone who can do it better than you. And you focus on your superpower and what you're best at.
And, you know, I just want to toggle off what you said, Teo, because it's so important. And that is, you need to read up and understand certain things. Whatever it is that you're interested in, whether you're interested in SEO, whether you're interested in content marketing, social media, whatever your marketing interest is, what you're thinking about, research it, understand it. Because believe me when I tell you, people will, you know, all different kinds of people will tell you things. And it's just like choosing a software. You're not going to be able to choose a good software if you don't know what you need. You're not going to be able to hire someone if you don't understand. Do not just leave it up to them to tell you what to do. You have to know enough.
Spot on. There's one more which it is very open-ended, so I'm not sure how you want to answer it, but another question from MD Wasim, which is, what is the best way of doing SEO?
I would say there are 3 pillars to SEO. It's technical, on page, and off page. And, you know, Google has made a lot of algo changes ever since. But all 3 still are super important. And so you need to make sure that your site, app, whatever is set up correctly. You need to look at your crawl budget and all that. And then you need to have great 10x content written by experts and make sure that you hit on those expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness signals. And then off page, which is kind of like all that PR publicity and backlinks. And so all 3 are important. And depending on your niche or market, some may be more important than others. I think it always depends on the competition. But honestly, I think there's no other way to go about it.
I agree. In fact, I would say the best way of doing SEO is learning about the things that Teo just talked about. It's really, really important. There's so many great resources where you can go check out Yoast. They have free academy stuff. I paid $97, best $97 I ever spent. Watch Brian Dean from Backlinko. He does a ton of free content. So learn before, you know, learn, practice, and then you'll do much better.
Great, thank you. I think we'll take one final one that's just come in from Andre, which is, how much trust do you think goes into the execution of a marketing strategy? What other virtues are important in this endeavor?
Well, trust is everything. I think this is why I think I've really gotten on a soapbox about this superpower thing, because of trust. If you are going to get up there and if you're a content person and you like writing and doing whatever, and then you're forcing yourself to do certain types of videos that make you feel uncomfortable, do you think people will trust you? It's going to fail and it's going to fall flat. You know, likewise, you know, be who you are. I always say to people, marketing is about being. It's not about doing. It's about being. So you're right, Andre. Trust is huge. And you lose trust when you go off and are always doing something different. Your customer is going to say, what the heck? One day it's this, the next way it's that. That's how you lose trust.
Great. Thank you so much. Have you got any final comments, ladies?
I think this has been great. Thanks so much for having us. Thanks everyone, for your questions. I hope you found this useful. And yeah, hope you will work hard to get that strategy simplified.
Great. Thank you so much. It was fantastic. Thank you, Teo and Ivana. The links to the quiz and the other document are in the chat, but I've taken a note of them, so we can also share those if needed. Thank you so much for giving us your time today and for joining us on this conference. It's like an absolute pleasure to have you both.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Startup Grind. Thank you, Startup guys.